There is a specific moment that most people recognize. Something occurs, a conflict, a memory, or a headline. And instead of a productive reaction, you go entirely blank. You are not calm, and you are not okay. You are simply blank. Your chest fails to rise normally. Your thoughts stop forming coherent sentences. You find yourself standing in your kitchen or your office, and you are genuinely frozen. This is not a metaphor. Your body has engaged in a specific biological process, and you likely had no idea it was happening. This freeze state is the focus of this discussion, and it is important to clarify something immediately. What you are about to learn is not a standard stress management tip. It is not a simple reminder to take a deep breath. It is a precise pattern of exhaled air, a breath pattern documented in yogic texts 5,000 years ago, independently rediscovered by neuroscience in the 1990s, and currently being studied with an intensity that has surprised even the lead researchers. 90 seconds. That is the time required to interrupt the freeze state once you understand the actual mechanism and the reason behind it. But before demonstrating that, I must show you something you likely do not know about yourself. The way you have been taught to perceive trauma and stress is backward, and that flawed thinking is why previous breathing exercises failed to work for you. In approximately 8 minutes, once you grasp the mechanism, the technique will make an entirely different kind of sense. Start here. Right now, before another word is said, try this. Exhale every bit of air you have. Do not do it dramatically. Just breathe out fully until your lungs feel genuinely empty. Then wait. Do not inhale yet. Remain in that emptiness for 2 or 3 seconds, then allow the breath to return on its own. This should not be a forced inhale, but a passive one, the kind where the body refills simply because you allowed it to. Notice what occurred in that pause. That tiny suspension, the space after the exhale and before the inhale, is where the unfreeze breath exists. You have just touched the edge of it. Most individuals who have been in a freeze state for years are unaware they have been skipping that exact pause their entire lives. They exhale and immediately pull air back in, never allowing the pause to happen. And the pause, as you will soon understand, is the switch. More on why that pause acts as the switch in a moment, but I want to provide one more thing before we address the science. Take a full exhale again. After the exhale, when the lungs are empty, open your mouth slightly and produce a quiet, continuous sound. It should be like a soft ha with no effort, barely audible. The vibration in your throat should feel as if it originates from somewhere deeper than your voice. Hold that for 4 or 5 seconds, then allow the passive inhale again. Do this twice. If you felt a shift, a softening in your jaw, a release in your upper chest, or a subtle sensation behind your eyes, that is not a placebo. That is a signal traveling along the longest nerve in your autonomic nervous system. Once you understand what just happened, you will never think about breathing the same way again. Now the science. I want to explain this carefully because the mechanism is the entire point. In 1994, a psychiatrist and neuroscientist named Stephen Porges published work that permanently altered how the scientific community understands trauma. It was called polyvagal theory. Porges had spent decades studying heart rate variability and noticed something that did not fit the existing model of the autonomic nervous system. The model at that time suggested 2 states, sympathetic, fight or flight, and parasympathetic, rest and digest, essentially an on-off switch or an accelerator and a brake. Porges identified a 3rd state, which was not a point on a spectrum between the two, but a separate circuit entirely. He called it the dorsal vagal state, and the word that most accurately describes it is not stress, but freeze. This matters because the sympathetic state is an activated, high-energy state. Your heart accelerates, cortisol spikes, and you feel anxious or edgy. While uncomfortable, it has a natural metabolic ceiling. Your body cannot maintain it forever. The dorsal vagal freeze state is different. It is not high-energy expenditure. It is the opposite. It is the body's most ancient survival response, predating fight or flight by hundreds of millions of years. It exists in every vertebrate. When a lizard goes limp after being caught by a predator, that is dorsal vagal. When a prey animal collapses before being killed, that is dorsal vagal. It is what evolution developed for when escape was impossible. In humans, this same system activates not from physical predators, but from emotional threats that feel inescapable. This could stem from a childhood where expressing emotion was dangerous, a relationship where speaking up led to punishment, or a trauma with no exit. The body registers no way out and enters its oldest program: shut down, freeze, dissociation, and numbness. Crucially, freeze does not feel like stress. It feels like nothing. That is its signature. It is not anxiety but absence, not pain but flatness. Because it does not feel like a crisis, many people live in it for years without identifying it, calling it depression, exhaustion, or a lack of caring. This is the freeze. The reason many interventions like breathing apps or meditation fail is that they are designed for the sympathetic system. They act as brakes, and you cannot brake a car that is already stopped. The unfreeze breath does something different. To understand it, you must know the anatomy of the vagus nerve. Its name comes from the Latin for wandering because it travels from the brainstem through the throat, chest, heart, lungs, diaphragm, and into the abdomen. It has two distinct branches. The dorsal branch, governing freeze, runs below the diaphragm and is ancient and slow. The ventral branch, governing connection and safety, runs above the diaphragm and is newer and faster. When it activates, the freeze breaks. The key is that the ventral vagal branch passes directly through the vocal cords and the throat. This means the controlled vocalized exhale is a direct physical intervention on the branch of the vagus nerve that breaks the freeze. The vibration creates mechanical stimulation on the nerve at the throat level, causing the ventral branch to activate and the dorsal shutdown to lift. Ancient yogic texts describe this as releasing trapped breath. They lacked fMRI machines, but they had 5,000 years of systematic observation, finding exactly what Porges found. The exhale with sound is the switch. A 2022 study by researchers at the University of California, San Francisco, published in Cell Reports Medicine, compared 4 breathing conditions: cyclic sighing, box breathing, mindfulness meditation, and cyclic hyperventilation. Cyclic sighing, a double inhale followed by a long, complete exhale, outperformed every other condition in reducing physiological stress markers. The effect appeared within the first session. This was ventral vagal activation through extended exhalation. The double inhale inflates the lungs fully, while the long exhale activates the cardiac branch of the vagus nerve. The body begins to thaw. This is also why the pause matters. When you stop the exhale and hold before the inhale, you allow the vagal brake on the heart to fully engage. The heart rate slows, the nervous system registers safety, and the dorsal shutdown ceases. When the passive inhale comes, the system re-enters the ventral state of presence. The 5,000-year history of this is a forensic fact. The pranayamic traditions of ancient India were systematic. The Rig Veda, thousands of years old, contains early references to controlled breath for emotional regulation. Scholars estimate these practices were refined 4,500 to 5,000 years ago in the Indus Valley. They were mapping the nervous system's response to breath, using terms like prana in channels like Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna, which correspond to the parasympathetic, sympathetic, and central nervous systems. The specific unfreeze breath is related to Brahmari pranayama, humming bee breath, and kumbhaka, retention at the bottom of the exhale. These were techniques for releasing held patterns, which translates directly to dissolving dorsal vagal activation. Now, the complete 90-second unfreeze breath protocol, it consists of 3 phases. Phase 1 is the priming exhale. Sit or stand with a long spine to avoid restricting the diaphragm. Breathe out through your mouth slowly and completely. At the very bottom, pull your navel toward your spine to extract the last reservoir of air, where CO2 is highest. Hold the empty space for 2 to 4 seconds without straining. Then, let the body inhale passively, allowing the belly to expand first. You might feel a tremor or shiver. This is a sign of muscular tension releasing, a critical piece of biological completion. Phase 2 is the activation sequence. After the passive inhale, begin a slow exhale through the nose or parted lips with a very quiet vibration, a soft friction of air. This is similar to Ujjayi breath. Maintain this vibration for the full exhale, hold the emptiness for 2 to 4 seconds, and repeat this 4 times. This takes about 60 to 75 seconds. Phase 3 is the seal. After the 4th exhale and pause, take a passive inhale and hold the breath at the top for 5 seconds. This compresses the heart slightly, sending a mechanical safety signal to the brainstem. When you finally exhale normally, the nervous system has received signals from both the exhale-based vagal brake and the inflation-based signal, reading that the threat has passed. Why does the sound matter? The ventral vagus nerve passes through the larynx. Mechanical vibration there is direct stimulation. A 2019 study in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience found that humming increased heart rate variability significantly compared to silent breathing. Is 90 seconds enough? Yes, for acute disruption, but consistent practice over weeks shifts the resting tone of the nervous system. Vagal tone is plastic. It changes based on input. A 2016 meta-analysis showed that slow breathing with extended exhales consistently increased vagal tone within 2 to 4 weeks, making the system more resilient. What if nothing happens? This usually means the dorsal shutdown is so deep that the system is muted. Adding a 30-second hum before the protocol can help warm the tissue. Alternatively, if the freeze lifts and you feel pain or anger, it means the shutdown was protecting you from overwhelming experiences. The ventral state provides the capacity to process these feelings safely. The freeze state also has a trigger threshold. Partial freeze feels like mild disengagement or flatness. The unfreeze breath is powerful here too, shifting coherence between the heart and brain. The best times for this are the liminal moments of sunrise and sunset. In the morning, do it within the first 5 minutes to blunt the cortisol awakening response. In the evening, do it at least 90 minutes before sleep to transition from the day's activation to rest. The freeze was an intelligent solution to past powerlessness, but the breath sends a signal in a language older than words. The threat has passed. As the baseline shifts, people report the return of time, the sense that a future exists. 90 seconds is the beginning of the thaw, the door unlocking to your own presence. If this exploration of the nervous system has changed the way you perceive your internal world, please subscribe and like the channel. We are dedicated to uncovering the biological history and truths that have been hidden from us. Let us plant the seeds for a more resilient future together. The next discovery in our treasury will be revealed soon.